2 weeks into Earth's silence, the situation had moved from concerning to alarming. The Galactic Council chamber no longer buzzed with whispers when Nancy Clark entered. Instead, it fell into a tense silence that felt heavier than any noise. She took her seat, aware of the empty chairs beside her where other human representatives should have been. They had all left to seek information, to try different channels of communication with Earth, but none had returned with answers. Council Leader Zith called the session to order with a solemn tone. We gather today to discuss growing concerns about the human situation. 2 full cycles have passed with no word from Earth or any human colony. Nancy stood to speak, but the representative from Taurus interrupted. We have reports of human ships going dark mid-journey. They enter normal space from hyperspace and then cut all communications. They continue to their destinations but respond to no hails. This was news to Nancy. Are the ships showing signs of distress? Could they be experiencing technical failures? The ships appear fully functional, replied the Taurian, his bovine features set in a grim expression. They simply choose not to respond, just like your homeworld. More reports followed. Trade routes through human space had been disrupted as alien merchants refused to approach Earth or its colonies. Several diplomatic stations had reported human staff members suddenly leaving without explanation. Some claimed to be returning to Earth for consultation, but none had offered further details. This pattern suggests coordination, said the vegan representative, standing tall and imposing. A species-wide communication blackout is a known tactic before aggressive action. Nancy shook her head. Humans are not planning aggression. We've been peaceful members of the galactic community for 30 years. Then explain the silence, demanded a small, furry representative from Procyon. I cannot, Nancy admitted. But I know my people. Whatever is happening, it is not preparation for war. Her words seemed to fall on deaf ears. The Council voted to establish a buffer zone around human space. Not quite a blockade, but close. Ships were advised to avoid human territories, and additional monitoring stations would be set up along the borders. As Nancy left the chamber, she felt more alone than ever. Her assistant, a young human named Frank Moore, waited outside. Any news? She asked, already knowing the answer from his expression. Nothing, Frank replied. But rumors are spreading faster than we can counter them, Nancy sighed. What's the worst one today? That humans have discovered some kind of superweapon and are preparing to take over the galaxy. On Proxima Station, Dr. Olivia Martinez was documenting the growing fear among alien populations. Her research lab had become eerily quiet as her alien colleagues stopped coming to work. The few who still arrived kept their distance, speaking in hushed tones when they thought she couldn't hear. Olivia typed notes into her tablet as she observed the station's main dining area from a corner table. Where humans and aliens had once sat together, there was now clear separation. The few humans on the station clustered together at one end of the room, while aliens gathered at the other, casting occasional nervous glances toward the humans. Ben Lewis, her research assistant, slid into the seat across from her. Security stopped me this morning, he said quietly. They searched my quarters while I was sleeping. Said they were looking for unauthorized communication devices. Olivia nodded. They did the same to me yesterday. They're afraid we know something. Do we? Ben asked, only half joking. I wish we did, Olivia replied. She had spent years studying how different species responded to stress and fear. Now she was watching those responses play out in real time, directed at her own kind. Humans had always been viewed with a mixture of fascination and wariness by the galactic community. Their rapid technological advancement and adaptability had earned them respect, but also suspicion. Now their silence was feeding into every worst-case scenario. I've been thinking, Ben said, leaning forward. What if something really bad did happen on Earth? What if there was some kind of disaster so complete that all communication was cut off? Olivia had considered this. Then why are human ships still arriving at ports? And why would colony worlds also go silent? No, this is coordinated, which means it's intentional. But why would Earth choose to go silent? It makes no sense. Olivia had no answer for that dot on Rigel 7, a major trading hub near human space. Fleet Commander Elizabeth Reeves watched from the window of her small diplomatic vessel as alien military ships gathered. They were trying to be subtle about it, arriving one or two at a time, taking positions that seemed random unless you knew what to look for. But Elizabeth had spent 20 years in Earth's Space Navy before becoming a diplomatic officer. She recognized a blockade formation when she saw one. Her communications officer, Ryan Davis, appeared at her side. "Commander, I've intercepted some transmissions between the Regelian Defense Force and those vessels." "Tell me," Elizabeth said, not taking her eyes off the growing fleet. "They're discussing containment protocols. They're worried about whatever is happening with Earth spreading to other systems." Elizabeth frowned. "Spreading? Like a disease?" Ryan shook his head. "They're not clear on what it is, but they're scared, really scared." Elizabeth had never seen alien species react this way. Humans had fought wars before joining the Galactic Council, had even had minor skirmishes with a few alien races during first contact situations, but there had been nothing in 30 years to justify this level of fear. "There's more," Ryan added. "I picked up a transmission from the vegan flagship to their high command. They have a theory about why Earth went silent." "What theory?" "They think Earth isn't preparing for war against the galaxy. They think Earth is preparing for something worse, something coming from outside the galaxy. They think we know about some threat, and we're preparing for it without warning anyone else." Elizabeth felt a chill run through her. The idea was absurd, of course. If Earth knew about some external threat, they would warn the galaxy, not hide from it. But the fact that alien species could believe humans capable of such selfishness showed how little trust remained. "Keep monitoring," she told Ryan, "and prepare the ship for emergency departure if needed." "I don't like the size of that fleet." Days passed, and the silence from Earth continued. Across the galaxy, human diplomats found themselves increasingly isolated. Some were placed under what aliens politely called protective custody, but what felt more like house arrest. Others were asked to leave alien worlds entirely. Trade with human colonies slowed to a trickle. Supplies that normally flowed freely became scarce. The few human merchants still traveling between worlds reported being stopped repeatedly. Their ships searched, their crews questioned. In the Galactic Council, Nancy Clark fought daily against new restrictions on human movement and trade. But with each passing day without word from Earth, her position weakened. She had no answers to give, no explanations to offer. And somewhere out there, Earth continued its mysterious silence, unaware or unconcerned about the fear it was causing across the stars. 1 month after Earth went silent, the Galactic Council finally authorized a reconnaissance mission. The debate had been long and heated, with many representatives arguing against sending ships to Earth at all. Some feared a trap, others worried about provoking whatever humans might be planning. In the end, curiosity and concern won out over fear. The interspecies vessel named Horizon was selected for the mission. It carried representatives from 7 different alien worlds, chosen for their diplomatic experience and scientific knowledge. The ship was large and well-equipped, designed for deep space exploration. Its captain was a respected Arcturian named Zell, known for his calm judgment in difficult situations. There was only one human aboard, Science Officer Jack Turner. His presence had been Nancy Clark's one victory in the council debates. She had insisted that a human must be included, someone who knew Earth and could help interpret whatever they found. The council had agreed, but not without adding restrictions. Jack found himself under constant watch. His access to ship systems was limited, and he was not allowed to send any communications without supervision. The crew was polite but distant, their unease obvious in how they fell silent when he entered rooms. As the Horizon prepared to depart from the main council station, Jack stood on the observation deck, watching the stars. He felt the presence of someone behind him and turned to see the ship's security chief, a muscular being from Sirius with golden fur and sharp eyes. "We launch in 1 hour, Officer Turner," the Sierran said. Captain Zell requests your presence on the bridge for departure? Jack nodded. I'll be there. The Sirion hesitated, then asked the question Jack had been expecting. Do you really not know what happened to your world? I don't, Jack replied honestly. I'm as confused as everyone else. The Sirion studied him for a long moment, then turned to leave. I hope that's true, for all our sakes. Meanwhile, in the heart of Council territory, Council Intelligence Officer Betty Garcia had been given a special assignment. A small, energetic woman with a sharp mind, Betty had spent years analyzing communications from across the galaxy. Now, with Earth silent, she was tasked with reviewing old human transmissions. Looking for any clues about what might have happened, Betty sat in a small room filled with screens, scanning through years of Earth broadcasts, diplomatic messages, and cultural exchanges. Her eyes burned from lack of sleep, but she kept working. Something had to explain this silence. On her 5th day of searching, she found something interesting. An old military transmission that mentioned going dark as a tactic. The message discussed how Earth navies would sometimes cut all communications during operations to avoid detection. Could the entire planet be doing this? She wondered aloud. But why? She brought her findings to the Council's Security Committee. The reaction was immediate and alarming. Several species began mobilizing defensive fleets, convinced that humans were indeed plotting something catastrophic. You've misunderstood, Betty protested as the committee members talked over each other in growing panic. This was a standard naval procedure from before we joined the Council. It doesn't mean Earth is planning aggression. But her words were lost in the uproar. The fear that had been building for weeks had found a focus, and logic could not compete with it. On the diplomatic station Harmony, near the border of human space, Human Representative Paul Green found himself under increasing restrictions. What had started as security measures had become house arrest in all but name. He was confined to his quarters with guards posted outside his door at all times. Paul sat by his window, looking out at the busy station beyond. He could see aliens going about their business, but there were no humans visible anywhere. He wondered if they had all been confined like him, or if they had been removed from the station entirely. His door chimed, and a station security officer entered without waiting for permission. The officer, a tall, thin being with pale blue skin, placed a food tray on the table. Any news? Paul asked, as he did every day. Usually, the officer ignored his questions, but today he paused. There are riots in the lower levels, he said quietly. Some of the traders and workers are demanding that all humans be removed from the station. Paul felt a chill. Because of Earth's silence? The officer nodded. They are afraid. Many believe. Humans are planning something terrible. We're not, Paul insisted. I don't know why Earth went silent, but it's not for any harmful reason. The officer gave him a long look. The problem, Representative Green, is that your species has always been too good at imagining terrible things. Your stories, your films, your games, they are full of destruction and conquest. Now, other species imagine what humans might do if they put their minds to something truly terrible. With that, he left. The door locking automatically behind him. The horizon traveled swiftly toward the Sol system, using the faster-than-light travel that made interstellar civilization possible. Jack Turner spent most of his time on the bridge, answering questions about Earth and its colonies. The crew's questions had become more direct as they got closer to their destination. What defenses does Earth have? Asked the tactical officer, a small reptilian being with quick movements. Standard planetary shields and a defense fleet, Jack answered. Nothing unusual for a council world and your colonies? Are they similarly defended? Some are, some aren't. The outer colonies have minimal defenses. The questions continued, and Jack answered as honestly as he could. He understood their concern, but their suspicion was wearing on him. He missed the easy friendship he had once shared with alien colleagues. Before Earth's silence had changed everything. As they approached the outer edge of the Sol system, past the orbit of Pluto, the ship's sensors began gathering data. The science team crowded around their stations, analyzing the results. No unusual energy signatures, reported one. No debris fields or signs of battle, said another. Planetary bodies all appear in their expected positions, added a third. Captain Zell turned to Jack. Your system appears normal, Officer Turner. No signs of disaster that we can detect. Jack felt relief wash over him. Whatever had happened, at least Earth itself seemed intact. But the mystery remained. Why the silence? As the horizon continued inward, passing Neptune and then Uranus, more detailed scans confirmed that the Sol system was functioning normally. There were ships moving between the planets, normal levels of communication between the colonies on Mars and the moons of Jupiter, but nothing going beyond the system boundary. It was as if Earth had simply decided to stop talking to the rest of the galaxy. The tension on the ship eased slightly. If humans were planning something aggressive, there were no obvious signs of it. No gathering fleets, no unusual military movements, just normal activity within a single star system. We will reach Earth orbit in 26 hours, Captain Zell announced. Prepare for potential contact. Jack nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. Soon, they would have answers. Soon, they would know why Earth had gone silent. He only hoped those answers would calm the fears that had been spreading across the galaxy. As he returned to his quarters to rest before their arrival, Jack wondered what they would find on the surface of his homeworld. The scans showed cities intact, oceans still blue, atmosphere still breathable, but scans couldn't tell them why 8 billion humans had suddenly decided to cut themselves off from the rest of the universe. Tomorrow they would find out. And Jack wasn't sure if he should feel hope or dread about what that answer might be. The Horizon entered Earth orbit early the next morning. From the observation deck, Jack Turner gazed down at his homeworld, feeling a mix of relief and confusion. Earth looked exactly as it always had. The blue oceans, white clouds, and green-brown land masses were unchanged. Cities glittered on the night side, showing normal power usage. Satellites moved in their usual orbits. Everything looked perfectly normal. I don't understand, said the Arcturian captain as he joined Jack at the window. Your world appears to be functioning as usual. Yes, Jack agreed. No signs of disaster or war. Then why the silence? Why cut off all communication with the rest of the galaxy? Jack shook his head. I don't know, but I intend to find out. The Council had authorized a landing party to visit Earth's surface. After much debate, they had decided to land near Denver, in what had once been the United States. It was Jack's hometown, which meant he could guide them, and it housed several important government buildings without being as high security as some other locations. The landing shuttle carried Jack, Captain Zell, and 5 other crew members chosen for their scientific and diplomatic skills. As they descended through Earth's atmosphere, they sent standard landing announcements on all frequencies. To their surprise, they received prompt clearance from Denver's spaceport. The voice on the radio was calm and professional, showing no sign that anything unusual was happening. Welcome to Earth, said the spaceport controller. Please follow the guidance beacon to landing pad 7. The crew exchanged puzzled looks. This was not the reception they had expected from a world that had cut off all contact with the galaxy. They landed smoothly on the designated pad. Through the shuttle windows, they could see the spaceport functioning normally. Workers moved equipment, other ships took off and landed, ground vehicles transported people and cargo. It was the everyday routine of a busy spaceport. This is very strange, said the ship's doctor, a squat, 4-armed being from Vega. They act as if nothing is wrong. Let's find out why, Jack said, standing and moving toward the exit. The landing party disembarked, blinking in the bright Colorado sunshine. A spaceport official approached them, smiling warmly. Welcome to Denver, she said. I'm Lisa Cooper, port administrator. We were told to expect a council delegation, though we weren't given many details. I am Captain Zell of the council vessel Horizon, Zell introduced himself. We are here to investigate why Earth has ceased all communications with the galactic community. Lisa looked surprised. Has there been a problem with our communications? I wasn't aware of any issues. Jack stepped forward. Earth has been completely silent for over a month. No transmissions have been received by any council world or station. We were sent to find out why. Lisa frowned. That's odd. Let me make some calls. She stepped away and spoke quietly into a small device while they waited. Jack looked around the spaceport. Everything seemed normal, yet somehow different. It took him a few moments to realize what was strange. The people moving around the port were not looking at screens or talking on communication devices. They were simply doing their jobs, occasionally speaking to each other face to face. Lisa returned, looking slightly embarrassed. I've spoken with my supervisor. He suggests you speak with someone from the government. They can explain everything. I've arranged for transportation to take you to the city center. A large ground vehicle arrived and the landing party boarded. As they drove away from the spaceport and into Denver proper, Jack looked out the windows with growing confusion. The city was busy and obviously thriving, but people were behaving differently than he remembered. They walked along the streets looking ahead, not down at devices. In parks, people sat together, talking or simply enjoying the day. Outside cafes, friends gathered around tables with no screens in sight. What's happening? He asked aloud, though. He didn't expect an answer from his alien companions. The vehicle took them to a large government building in the center of the city. They were escorted to a meeting room where several officials waited. A middle-aged man with a friendly face stepped forward. Welcome to Earth. I'm Richard Johnson, Denver's mayor. We understand you have questions about our communication status. Captain. Zell stepped forward. Earth has been silent for over a month. This has caused great concern throughout the galaxy. Some fear you have suffered a catastrophe. Others worry you are planning something dangerous. Mayor Johnson looked surprised. Then understanding dawned on his face. Oh dear. The Reconnection Act. I don't think anyone considered how it would appear to the rest of the galaxy. The Reconnection Act? Jack asked. What is that? The mayor gestured for everyone to sit. About 6 weeks ago, the Global Council passed the Reconnection Act. It's a temporary measure, a 3-month period during which all non-essential electronic communications are limited. No social media, no constant news feeds, no endless digital distractions. The goal is to help people reconnect with each other and with the physical world. The alien delegation stared at him in disbelief. You deliberately cut off all communications? Captain Zell asked. As a social experiment? Not all communications, the mayor corrected. Emergency services still function. Local networks for essential services remain active. But yes, global and interstellar communications were temporarily suspended as part of the program. But why? Asked the vegan doctor. In recent years, many humans have become increasingly isolated despite being constantly connected digitally. Mayor Johnson explained. Mental health issues were rising. Community bonds were weakening. The Reconnection Act was designed to help people remember how to be present with each other. Jack felt a mixture of relief and disbelief. And no one thought to inform the Galactic Council about this plan. The mayor looked embarrassed. I believe it was considered a domestic policy matter. I don't think anyone fully considered the interstellar implications. Your domestic policy has brought the galaxy to the brink of panic, Captain Zell said, his tone sharp. There are defense fleets gathering at the edges of human space. Trade has been disrupted. Diplomats have been confined. Mayor Johnson's eyes widened. I had no idea. We've been so focused on the program's implementation here on Earth that we haven't been monitoring galactic reactions. I need to contact the Global Council immediately. As the mayor left to make urgent calls, Jack asked permission to walk around the city. He wanted to see for himself how Earth had changed. Captain Zell agreed, but assigned 2 crew members to accompany him. They walked through downtown Denver. Observing the people around them, Jack was struck by the differences. People made eye contact as they passed. Conversations flowed in cafes, without interruptions from devices. In a park, children played actual physical games, instead of virtual ones. Jack stopped at a coffee shop he remembered from before he left Earth. Inside, people sat at tables talking, reading physical books, or simply enjoying their drinks. The place was full, but quieter than he remembered. Without the constant ping of messages and alerts, he ordered a coffee and sat at a small table. An older man at the next table smiled at him. "You look like you've been away for a while," the man observed. "I have," Jack admitted. "Things seem different." "The Reconnection Act?" The man nodded. "Strangest thing the government's ever done, but I have to admit, it's been good. People are talking again. Really talking, not just sending messages while sitting in the same room." "Was it difficult, giving up all the technology?" "The first week was hell," the man laughed. "Everyone was twitchy, constantly reaching for devices that weren't there, but then something changed. People started looking up, looking around, noticing each other again. Now, most folks say they don't want to go back to the way things were." Jack sipped his coffee, thinking about the implications. A simple social policy on Earth had accidentally terrified the entire galaxy. It was absurdly human, he realized. Only his species would try something so radical without considering how it might look to others. He wondered how the Galactic Council would react when they learned the truth. Would they be relieved, or would they be even more concerned about a species that could change its behavior so dramatically on a whim? News of Earth's social experiment spread quickly through the galaxy. The Horizon sent an immediate report to the Galactic Council, and emergency sessions were called to discuss this unexpected development. Ambassador Melissa Young, who had been on Earth when the silence began, was quickly sent back to the Council to explain the situation in person. Melissa stood before the Council chamber, facing hundreds of representatives from across the galaxy. Many looked angry, others confused, and some seemed amused by the whole situation. Council leader Zith called for order as the chamber buzzed with conversation. "Ambassador Young," Zith began, "please explain to this council how Earth could implement such a disruptive policy without informing the galactic community." Melissa took a deep breath. She was a tall woman with short brown hair and a calm demeanor. That served her well in diplomatic crises. This was certainly one of those times. "The Reconnection Act was developed as a domestic social policy," she explained. "It was designed to address growing concerns about digital dependency and social isolation among humans. The focus was entirely internal. I regret that we failed to consider the interstellar implications." "Failed to consider?" The vegan representative stood, his voice sharp with anger. "Your world went completely silent without warning. Defense. Fleets have been mobilized. Trade routes disrupted. And you say you failed to consider the implications?" Melissa nodded. "It was a serious oversight. One that Earth deeply regrets. We never intended to cause fear or disruption." "What exactly is this Reconnection Act?" asked a small, furry representative from Procyon, sounding more curious than angry. "It's a 3-month period during which non-essential electronic communications are limited," Melissa explained. "The goal is to help humans reconnect with each other on a personal level, without digital distractions. Studies showed that despite being more connected than ever through technology, many humans were feeling increasingly isolated and unhappy." "So you turned off your technology?" asked the Procyon representative, sounding bewildered. "Voluntarily?" "Not old technology," Melissa clarified. "Essential services continue to function. But yes, many forms of communication technology were temporarily suspended or limited." The council chamber filled with murmurs again. The idea of voluntarily giving up technology was alien to many species. Some found it fascinating, others disturbing. Nancy Clark, who had been fighting for human interests during the crisis, joined Melissa at the speaker's platform. "I understand the fear and confusion our silence caused," she said. "But now that we know there is no threat, no disaster, no sinister plot, I hope we can move forward and repair any damage to our relationships." The council debated long into the night. Some representatives demanded compensation for the disruption to trade. Others called for new regulations requiring member species to announce any major social or technological changes. A few even suggested that humans should be monitored more closely in the future, given their unpredictable nature. In the end, The Council voted to accept Earth's explanation and apology. The buffer zones around human space would be removed, and trade would be allowed to resume normally. But there was a new wariness in how the Council viewed humans. A species that could simply choose to go silent on a whim seemed even more unpredictable than they had realized. As news spread across the galaxy, reactions varied widely on Proxima Station. Dr. Olivia Martinez found herself suddenly popular again. Alien colleagues who had avoided her for weeks now approached with endless questions about the Reconnection Act. Is it true that humans are giving up technology permanently? Asked a jellyfish-like being who worked in the biology lab. No, not permanently, Olivia explained patiently. It's just for 3 months, a chance to reset our relationship with technology. But why would you want to do that? The alien asked. Genuinely puzzled, technology makes life better. It does, Olivia agreed. But sometimes humans need to step back and remember that technology is a tool, not the center of our lives. The alien wiggled its tentacles in what Olivia recognized as a gesture of confusion. Very strange, very human. On Rigel 7, Fleet Commander. Elizabeth Reeves watched with relief as the alien military vessels began to disperse. The threat of conflict had passed, but she knew that Earth's image had been changed forever in the eyes of the galaxy. Humans had always been seen as somewhat unpredictable, but now they would be viewed as truly bizarre, a species that might do anything, even turn away from technology, for reasons other species found hard to understand. As Earth approached the halfway point of the Reconnection Act, something unexpected began to happen. Reports came in from across the galaxy of alien observers arriving to study the human experiment. Some came officially, as representatives of their governments or scientific institutions. Others came as tourists curious to see humans living. With limited technology in parks and coffee shops around the world, it became common to see aliens sitting quietly, watching humans interact. Some took notes, others recorded video. All seemed fascinated by what they saw. Even more surprising were the requests that began to arrive from other worlds. Several species, it seemed, were struggling with their own forms of technological dependency. They wanted to learn from Earth's experiment, to understand how it was implemented and what effects it had. Ambassador Melissa Young found herself suddenly busy with diplomatic requests. After weeks of being treated with suspicion, she was now being asked to share information about the Reconnection Act with dozens of worlds. I never expected this, she told her assistant as they prepared for yet another meeting. I thought we'd be apologizing for months. It turns out we accidentally started a galactic trend? Her assistant replied with a smile. On Earth itself, opinions about the Reconnection Act remained mixed. Some humans loved the change and dreaded returning to constant connectivity. Others counted the days until they could return to their devices. Most found themselves somewhere in the middle, appreciating aspects of the quieter, more present lifestyle while missing the conveniences of full technology. As the end of the 3-month period approached, Earth's government faced a new challenge. How should they return to normal galactic communications? A sudden resumption might seem jarring after so long. There were discussions about phasing in various forms of communication, starting with official channels and gradually expanding to include cultural exchanges and personal communications. In the end, they decided on a middle path. Official communications with the Galactic Council would resume immediately, but other forms of communication would be restored more gradually. And even when the Reconnection Act officially ended, some of its principles would remain in new policies, designed to promote a healthier relationship with technology. The incident entered galactic records as the Great Misunderstanding, but its effects continued to ripple through interstellar relations for years to come. Earth's accidental demonstration of its willingness to turn away from technology reminded the galaxy that humans remained fundamentally unpredictable, not because they were masterminds of strategy, but because they were constantly experimenting with their own existence. When the next Galactic Council meeting convened, Ambassador Young proposed a new interstellar protocol. Always tell your neighbors before you decide to go quiet. The motion passed unanimously, with several species adding amendments specific to their own communication needs. As Jack Turner prepared to return to his post on the horizon, he took one last walk through Denver. The city was different than it had been before the Reconnection Act, and not just because of the alien visitors now sitting in the parks and cafes. People still talked more, looked at each other more. Even as some began to use personal devices again, they did so differently, more consciously, with more frequent breaks to look up and engage with the world around them. Jack smiled as he passed a cafe where a group of humans was explaining the concept of a digital sunset to a fascinated alien audience. The idea that technology should be put away before bedtime seemed to both puzzle and intrigue the visitors. Earth's silence had terrified the galaxy, but its return to communication was creating something unexpected, a new kind of conversation about the role of technology in sentient life. It was, Jack thought, a very human outcome. To accidentally cause a crisis and then somehow turn it into an opportunity for growth. As he boarded the shuttle that would take him back to the horizon, Jack wondered what other uniquely human habits might someday shock the galaxy. He made a mental note to suggest better cultural orientation for alien diplomats. Clearly, they needed to understand that humans would always find new ways to be unpredictable. The morning sun rose over the rocky landscape of planet GC 3721, casting long shadows across the excavation site where Dr. Elaine Warren and her team had been working for the past 3 weeks. Elaine brushed dust from her uniform and adjusted her protective gloves before stepping out of her temporary shelter. The air was thin but breathable, with a slightly sweet smell that reminded her of cinnamon. She took a deep breath and looked across the dig site where 6 others and archaeologists from the Galactic Council's Historical Recovery Division were already at work. This planet was supposed to be untouched by any advanced civilization, which made it perfect for studying natural planetary development. Elaine had expected another routine survey that would yield nothing but rocks and soil samples. She was wrong. 3 days ago, they had found something that didn't belong here. Something impossible. She walked toward the main excavation pit where her assistant Alan Fletcher was carefully removing soil from around a metallic object. Alan was young and eager, fresh from the academy with bright eyes that still held wonder for each new world they visited. He looked up as she approached and waved her over with excitement. "Dr. Warren, you need to see this," he called, his voice crackling slightly through the communication system in their protective helmets. Elaine quickened her pace and crouched beside him. The morning light caught on something reflective in the dirt. "I've cleared more of it since yesterday," Alan explained, pointing to what now appeared to be a small metallic panel with unusual markings along its edge. "And the dating results came back." He handed her a small data pad with the analysis. Elaine's eyes widened as she read the numbers. "This can't be right," she said, tapping the screen. "Run it again," Alan shook his head. "Already did. 3 times. Whatever this is, it's over 15,000 years old." Elaine stared at the object embedded in the soil. According to all known galactic history, no civilization had reached this sector of space until the Mendari about 4,000 years ago, and they had only done preliminary surveys before moving on. No settlement, no mining, nothing that would explain this artifact. "Let's get the whole team on this," she decided, standing up and activating her communicator. "All personnel to the main excavation site, priority 1. Within minutes, the entire team had gathered around the pit. Elaine explained the situation, while Alan continued to carefully remove soil from around the mysterious object. By midday, they had uncovered what appeared to be fragments of a much larger structure. Metal components, some corroded beyond recognition, others surprisingly well preserved. Dr. Nadine Foster, the team's material analyst, ran her scanner over each piece as it was excavated. "These are definitely not natural formations," she confirmed, studying the readouts on her device. "Some kind of processed alloy, but it doesn't match anything in our database." As the day progressed, the team expanded the excavation area. By late afternoon, they had uncovered dozens of fragments. Elaine organized them carefully on a large tarp, trying to see if any pieces fit together. The sun was beginning to set when Alan called out again from a new section of the dig. "Dr. Warren, I found something else." His voice held a note of wonder that made everyone turn. Elaine hurried over to find him holding a small object in his gloved hands. Unlike the other fragments, this one was intact. It was roughly the size of Elaine's palm, oval-shaped and made of a dark material that seemed to absorb the fading sunlight. Most importantly, it was covered in strange markings that looked intentional, not random patterns of corrosion or damage. Some kind of writing? Alan suggested, turning the object carefully to show the symbols etched into its surface. Elaine took it from him and examined it closely. The markings were arranged in lines, some straight, others curved. They didn't match any alien script she knew, and she had studied hundreds during her career. "Not writing, necessarily," she said, thoughtfully. "Could be decorative, or maybe some kind of mathematical notation." She handed the object to Dr. Susan Ray, their communications specialist. Susan ran her finger lightly over the markings, her brow furrowed in concentration. "I've never seen anything like this," she admitted. "But there's a pattern here. These symbols repeat in specific sequences. That suggests language, not just decoration." As darkness fell across the planet, the team reluctantly packed up for the day. Security protocols required them to secure all artifacts in the main research module overnight. Elaine carried the small object herself, unwilling to let it out of her sight. Inside the brightly lit module, the team gathered around a large table where Elaine placed the object for everyone to see. "Thoughts?" she asked, looking around at her colleagues. Dr. Greg Peters, their senior historian, spoke first. "If the dating is accurate, this predates any known civilization's presence in this sector by thousands of years. Either our understanding of galactic history is incomplete, or ... he hesitated. "Or what?" Elaine prompted. Greg looked uncomfortable. "Or we're not dealing with a known civilization at all." The implications of his statement hung in the air. Dr. Victor Lang, their geologist, broke the silence. Could it be natural after all? Some strange mineral formation that just happens to look artificial? Nadine shook her head firmly. "No chance. The alloy composition is definitely manufactured. Someone made these objects." "But who?" Alan asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. "And what were they doing here so long ago?" Elaine had no answer. She stared at the strange object, its markings seeming to shift in the artificial light of the module. "Whatever the explanation, this could be the most significant find of our careers," she said finally. "I need to report this to the council. Immediately." Late that night, after the others had retired to their sleeping quarters, Elaine sat alone at her communication station, composing her preliminary report. She included all their findings, the dating results, and detailed scans of the mysterious object with its unknown markings. She knew her report would cause a stir at council headquarters. Discoveries like this didn't happen often. As she prepared to transmit the data, she hesitated, her finger hovering over the send button. Once this information left the planet, everything would change. The council would likely dispatch a larger team. Their quiet little survey mission would become a major excavation project. And if the artifacts truly were as old as they appeared, the implications for galactic history could be profound. Elaine took a deep breath and pressed send. The communication system hummed as it transmitted her report across light years of space to the Galactic Council's Central Archive. She leaned back in her chair, suddenly exhausted. Outside the module window, the alien night was alive with strange sounds and the movement of local wildlife. Somewhere out there in the darkness lay more pieces of a 15,000-year-old puzzle. Elaine had no way of knowing that her discovery would soon shake the foundations of the Galactic Council's understanding of cosmic history. She couldn't have guessed that the small object with its mysterious markings would lead to a revelation that would forever change humanity's place in the galaxy. All she knew was that tomorrow they would dig deeper,